Hello, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are going to go slow here. We have people just piling on. This is wonderful. You are here for Crank Up Your Recruitment Marketing, the steps recruiters need to take to close more candidates. We've got Will Staney here. He's the founder and CEO of Proactive Talent, and he has a resume the length of my house title. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. Hi, Will.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm Will Staney, founder and CEO at Practice Talent, also a co-founder at Talent Brand Alliance. I think we have a slide a little bit later. I can go into a little bit of my history, but I believe, Ashley, you wanted to go through a little bit of kind of housekeeping.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I just want them to see you and know you're here. So we
Hey.
are here. You are in listen only mode. That means that you can hear us, but we can't hear you. This is an interactive webinar, so don't be shy. You have a questions panel on the sidebar for your little go-to webinar sidebar. Use that and I will communicate with Will for you and we'll answer everything we possibly can. We are live, so if you'd like to share, use the R Daily tag on Twitter. You'll receive a copy of the slide deck and link to this video after the webinar, so check those emails.
Awesome. And send
Okay,
all hate mail, feedback, and Twitter to @WillStaney on Twitter, and I'll be monitoring those after the webinar. Awesome.
awesome.
All right. Okay.
Okay, and here's Will.
Actually, I believe we're going to talk about some sponsors.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm trying to give this over to you in case you haven't noticed. you, you've got
No
such an
worries. I'm ready to
awesome
go,
voice
but
for the screen. We have Beamery here with us today. Beamery, we work really closely with them. They are the leading talent operating system, consolidating talent, CRM, marketing, compliance, automation, and management, and a connected integration layer on one unified platform. They enable enterprises to attract, identify, and engage candidates at scale. We have got a wonderful offer from them in your follow-up email. So like I said, keep those emails open. We also have Glassdoor with us today. They are one of the world's largest jobs and recruiting sites. Job seekers on Glassdoor, and you know Glassdoor, I know you know Glassdoor, are well researched and more informed about the jobs and companies they apply to and consider joining. Thousands of employers across all industries and sizes turn to Glassdoor to help them recruit and hire quality candidates at scale who stay longer, which is always a good thing, right?
totally.
Totally.
Yeah. So glad to have. No, glad to have my former employer
George.
at Glassdoor as a sponsor. Also, our partner Beamer. Beamer is great. We're going to be talking a little bit about Glassdoor today. We're also going to be talking a little bit about measuring recruitment marketing and employer branding, which Beamer is very, very strong with. So thank you guys for sponsoring this.
They're
All right,
wonderful.
y'all ready to crank it up? Let's crank it up. Get on your seatbelts, kids, because here we go. So yeah, like Ashley was saying, my name is Will Staney. I've been in the building of modern recruiting machines business for about a decade now. Prior to founding Proactive Talent, my consulting and staffing practice, and Talent Brand Alliance, which is a community for talent brand professionals. We do our Talent Brand Summit events in Austin in the spring and London coming up here in the fall in October. We are just a coalition of sort of employer brand practitioners sharing what we all do, helping build best practices and a knowledge base for this really growing sector of our talent acquisition industry. Prior to all this, I was at VMware, where I built out VMware Careers, Employer Brand Online, SAP. I was the first talent acquisition leader at Glassdoor, and then over at Twilio as well before starting my own firm. Real quick, a little bit about Proactive Talent. We are the leading power partner for your recruiting engine. We are a coalition of freelance recruiting and talent brand practitioners. You know, folks you may know, like James Ellis, one of our lead employer brand consultants. We come together and go to market and help companies tighten their hiring gaps, bolster their retention rates, and embolden their company mission through great employer brands, helping give them a competitive edge that they need in this ever-changing recruitment industry. We take a holistic approach. We get everything from talent attraction to recruitment. So in the talent attraction part of things, we do employer brand strategy, recruitment marketing and media, agency of record, content production and creative. On the hiring side, we do recruiting optimization, on-demand recruiting, and sourcing sprints. The magic happens when those things come together. Just a little bit of differentiation between more traditional types of partners and agency. We're really focused on cost-effective client long-term success with their budget in mind. We work as a seamless extension of our clients' teams, and that holistic approach means that we're helping solve the big problems instead of lots of little ones. With that, here's a few of our clients over the last 4 years. We work with some of the best brands out there and up and coming startups as well. So let's talk about some recruiting problems. Some of the common problems with companies we work with are really when it comes to recruiting or employer branding, these worlds are blended, right? One of them is we don't have the market penetration or brand awareness of, insert well-known employer in your market, right? Or our biggest hiring location is in a city or geo where we don't even have a large consumer presence. Another one we see is a lot of hiring happens in sort of one stoplight towns, so rural areas where the standard attraction strategy just doesn't work, right? Another one that we see and tackle a lot is across the US, there are more open roles than people to fill them. Unemployment is at a 50-year low, you guys. So you really have to, you got to go past the best practices, which we'll talk about a little bit, and think outside the box, right? In low population density areas too. I mean, you can get a job holding a roadwork sign that pays $25 an hour. So there's a lot of competition out there right now. But pretty much what we find is that most companies are really behind in the talent fight, right? And that it's been really my mission over the last 10 years to help companies evolve and modernize and build really great world-class talent attraction and recruiting strategies. So the thing is, companies got here by doing the things you're supposed to do, right? Maybe you pick an agency to help you, but you build that career site, but who's reading career sites, right? Maybe you're pushing your jobs to job boards, but passive talent, they don't look at job boards, right? Maybe you're posting some jobs on social media, but people don't go to Facebook to look at jobs, right? You go on Facebook, you're competing against Ryan Gosling and cute puppies and kittens, and I'm sorry, but your job is not going to beat that. Maybe buying ads, right? But you don't have the brand awareness, so the ads aren't as effective. And this is at the heart of what we're going to get to today, right? Best practices, right? That is, you follow the best practices, but those practices were the tactics of the market leader, right? Of the company that has the most resources. So when you play follow the leader, you never move into the lead. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, right? The fact is the world has changed, right? The company offering the job no longer has the power. The talent has the power, right? People don't get a job. They choose where they're going to be spending their work time and what they're spending it for, right? So your mission is important, right? If talent isn't happy in today's world, they just leave. The stigma of job hopping is long gone. People, especially the younger generation, are really into more project-based work, mission-based work, making sure that they feel like they're making a bigger impact, right? They know another job is waiting if you're not giving them what they need. People don't want a job, they want a purpose, to know that their work matters. The salary is just assumed, right? You have 92% of all workers who would leave their current role to work at a better and stronger brand. So what does that mean? That means you can't treat them like candidates anymore. They're volunteers, right? And volunteers, they need a reason why, right? So where is the fight actually happening, right? Well, I can tell you it is not happening on the job boards. Like, you got to think of a job board like a grocery store. You go there when you are hungry to buy food, but you don't walk in hungry unless you're me, and then you wake up an hour later and your cart is full and you just spent $400 on Cheetos. You kind of know what you like going into a grocery store, right? You know if you're Coke versus Pepsi, you know if you're ham versus turkey or a lot of ice cream, steak or frozen pizza, name them. You walk in with preferences, right? So the fight isn't in the grocery store, it happens before people walk in. The grocery store is simply, or the job board, right, is simply the means to complete the transaction. The kinds of people who are hanging out on job boards, are activated. They're massively applying to lots of different jobs. There typically aren't the people that you're passively sourcing and looking for, right? So while job boards useful, we'll talk about them a little later, it's not where you're going to close more candidates, right? The fight isn't on the career site, right? Because for all the work you put into your career site, does it attract any non-branded searches, right? That means if I'm doing a nursing job in San Antonio, am I going to your career site now? Google for Jobs is helping out with that a little bit, but really this means the only people you are reaching are the people who would have found you anyways, right? That's who wants to read what's on your career site, right? They have almost no interesting information, most career sites, sorry. Instead, they're serving up sort of sanitized and meaningless content about how great the company is to work for, a claim that isn't really backed up anywhere else, right? And so career sites are great, but if they are not immediately pulling and tying people in to a call to action, which is to get to the jobs and apply to them, meaningless. Now, people after applying may go back to the career site to learn a little bit more as far as how you present. They are important, but again, it's not where you're going to win the fight. All right, especially with companies who have bigger resources and really flashy, amazing career sites. It's also not on social media. You haven't updated your career page in more than a month, probably, right? Like the content you have is either self-serving or lacks deeper intent for most companies that I look at, right? Because people don't go on Facebook to see your stuff. They go to be entertained, right? To see pictures of their friends, babies, or puppies, to get the news and celebrity gossip. Your content can't compete, like I said earlier, with Ryan Gosling. That guy is adorable, right? So if that's the case, that means you have to do compelling content that's going to get their attention, right? But that takes some research. Also, anyone can buy ads, right? The fact that buying ads are easy suggests that everyone is buying ads, thus lowering the impact an ad might actually have, right? You either have to buy ads in smarter places than others, or have messaging so compelling that people allow you to interrupt what they're doing and then take some action, right? So ads are a means to squeeze more juice from the lemon, as Mr. James Ellis, our lead employer brand consultant, says. But the trick is, what are you telling them once you have their attention, right? Also, the fight isn't necessarily just about your recruiters. Like if somebody doesn't know or like your brand, they won't pick up your recruiter phone calls, right? They won't respond to in-mails, right? Much like job boards, the fight for talent happens before your recruiter even reaches out. At the same time, like what is the recruiter offering? Like what are you arming with your recruiter with, right? A slightly different salary, a different benefits package, a different color shirt. When people are changing jobs, they are making a choice about their lives and their future. What is your recruiter offering that makes that choice easy? I want you to think about that for a minute. You're asking people to append their lives. Sometimes, and I have moved across the country for jobs in the past, right? But that's because I had something that really made me listen, and it made that choice easy when I talked to that employer, right? That kind of thinking, this thinking of these are the check marks in the box that you need to do is what got most companies into sort of losing the battle for talent, having a hard time hiring, right? And it's not what's going to get them out, right? I'll tell you what is. It's time to change everything. You're not going to beat Google for talent playing Google's game, right? So no more cookie cutter solutions, right? You need to reinvent the game for you and for your company. Once you understand what makes you unique, you can build a new game around that. And this is something that has been tested across time, and we're going to talk about that. But every company should be investing, and every recruiter, even if you're not doing this at a company-wide level and doing a big employee value proposition research project with an outside vendor, you as a recruiter, when you're looking at your recs, you have to be thinking, what is something that I can uniquely offer? What is something unique about this job opportunity that I am trying to sling to people that is compelling to them and unique that they're not going to get anywhere else? And lead your messaging with that, right? The thing about also creating your employee value proposition and thinking about what makes it unique is that you can do it on your own. It takes longer, but another thing, and I'm going to quote James Ellis a lot because he helped a lot with some of the content, is that one thing that he says is you can't do this well on your own, right? You can't read the label on the jar from the inside. It really helps to have outsider research and opinion to really look through, talk to employees and understand what makes them tick. What are their motivators, right? So element number one of this, do we have a question, by the way? I can open it up before we move on.
We do.
Yeah.
How important is sourcing in this process? We have some sourcers in the audience.
Absolutely important, and all of this applies to outreach. Think about sourcing, right? What are the main channels that you're reaching out to candidates, right? The phone, email, maybe text messaging. If you're a super progressive company, I'm kidding. That should be like commonplace. You are marketing to these people. You're just direct marketing, right? And so a lot of this very much applies, and I'll try to hone in the rest of what I'm talking to also apply into sourcing even more deeply, because that is something near and dear to my heart. I think when you understand the why of the candidates you're reaching out to, you are better able to align your messaging in a compelling way, and when you understand their motivations, with that outreach messaging, when personalized, you're going to get higher response rates. You're going to get candidates that are actually willing to get on the phone with you and give you your time if you're speaking their language, right? So you have to start with the why. Like, why the hell would they want to work for you? Why would they want to give you their time? Why would they want to read that job description? Let's talk about why, right? So think about this, like, why do they don't make nearly enough money, but yet still plenty of people do it. Maybe not enough, but quite a few do. Another thing is like why do hedge fund managers manage capital? Tell you it's not the mission, it's the money on that one. Yeah, for sure. Now, why do engineers salivate at the idea of working for Tesla or SpaceX and others don't, right? Like, why do some people love Amazon and others loathe it? You know, why do people work at nonprofits, right? That's not the money, right? That's the opposite, right? It's these motivators, right? Not everyone is motivated by a paycheck. You can't just go at somebody with, we're a competitive, we have competitive pay, right? If you know you can get a paycheck lots of places as a candidate, especially a highly sought after candidate, like an executive or an engineer or a nurse, he's really, it's like, how do you choose, right? You choose because of what you're motivated by. And this is not just even with choosing a job and what job to apply to. This is in most decisions. What you choose says a lot about you as a person, as an individual. And all of that at its core comes from motivations, right? Understanding motivations. And people are triggered by 8 core motivations when choosing a job. Status, development, they want to learn something. It's support. I've got this team behind me, you're helping me be supported and develop. It's performance. You're motivated by being challenged, right? And measured. Maybe it's empowerment. It's the mission and values of the organization. Maybe it's the greater good, like social good. It's innovation. You want to be at the company that's on the cutting edge. Maybe it's a career change. You're trying to switch and advance your career in some way, right? But don't be fooled. You cannot just pick one of these things. Also, you can't pick all of them, because you can't be everything to everyone, because it's sometimes impossible to be a company of status, right? like an Apple, but also be maybe a company of support, right, or something like that, right? Some of these you can't do it all, right? So you have to talk to your employees. You have to do the research, really understand what are these things, and then secondary and almost just as important is connecting that motivation with what you reward, right? So if I'm trying to source for a role and I know that this team, their mission is to build real estate data to help people make better home buying decisions, right? And they're engineers, right? And you reward, you know that's the motivation. They like, these engineers love working with massive amounts of data and making real actionable impact on their customers from that data. Well, then your reward has to be somehow linked into that motivation for them. Then the reward is maybe they get a big bonus or recognition when they have pushed a new data visualization product that gives greater impact to that customer, right? Or managers reinforce that type of behavior around that motivation, right? You communicate what motivations you reward, right? You hire people who love being rewarded for that, right? And then when you're being properly motivated and then also properly rewarded for achieving what you're motivated by, they tell others who are similarly motivated by that thing, right? And then more people understand what you reward, and what you reward shows what you believe in as an organization, right? And then more people who love that, they apply, and on it goes, and it's this awesome cycle. But it all starts with first understanding the why and what people who do well at your organization are motivated by, and rewarding them for that. The second element of this is embracing your position. And for most of you, it's embracing your position as the underdog, because let's be frank, you aren't number one. Most companies are not number one. But there was a time when every market leader was behind. Most employers are not the top employer in their market or in the US, or name best place to work award, right? But every market leader was behind at some point. They didn't become a market leader by doing what everyone else did, right? They played different rules. They changed the game. They found advantages in not being number one. They started as challenger brands, right? Challenging the dominance of the market leader by doing what the leader could not. Think about competing against Facebook and Google is I will fight you if you say that a smaller tech startup that's doing something innovative and different couldn't beat a Google or Facebook for talent. I've seen them do it. When I was leading TA at Twilio, it was an up and coming, new telecommunications, and we were regularly going against Apple and Google, and they'll throw tons of change at these engineers to get them, but we were able to get them by understanding our positioning and then understanding what makes us unique and understanding their motivations. Think about all the challenger brands over just in the last few decades, right? Think about like Microsoft in the 1990s, right? Apple came around and said, we have another way of doing this. Blockbuster, Netflix came in and like, goodbye, right? Toyota to Ford, Casper Purple to Mattress Firm, Airbnb to Marriott, right? Warby Parker to LensCrafters. There's tons of examples of challenger brands coming up by being unique and by really owning their position. And there's a really good example of this, and that's Avis and Hertz, right? Avis was only number two, right? Hertz was number one. Avis was losing $3.2 million a year, but then they came out with a brilliant marketing strategy, which is to embrace their position. They said, you know what? We're only number two, so we try harder. And they pushed that really hard. And within a year, they went from losing 3.2 million in revenue a year to earning 1.2 million in profit just by embracing their position. It's okay to not be number one. I mean, who wants to go work at a company that's already vastly successful? I think most people are going to be motivated by helping a company with a great mission that's wanting to make an impact become a leader, right? Who wants to come in and just maintain a machine? No, you want to come in and build the machine. The right folks for certain companies want to do that. Unless your position is leader and you want to maintain that, then it's like you want to be at the best and then help us maintain it and innovate for the future. Like you see how you can, no matter your position, you can mold it to the way that is true and unique to your position, right? So you may never thought of it this way, but most every company in this webinar digital room is a challenger brand, right? Both for your customers and your talent, right? And so here's how it works. Like, how do I understand? You're probably asking, like, Will, like, okay, how do I understand? How do I figure out our positioning? How do I understand who we are, and then actually execute on that? That's the big challenge, right? It really starts with doing some of your research, right? Like, who are your employees? Like, what drives them to succeed, right? Some of your best folks. What do they do? What are your competitors in that same space saying about themselves, right? And then understanding and defining your position, right? Define the position that maximizes your ability to tell consistent and authentic messages everywhere. That's that main brand narrative, right? And you can do this at a higher level, high EVP, or even down to your specific role. And say you're sourcing for a position, right? You can find like, what is my positioning against, what are the other opportunities in this area where I'm trying to hire this person that are similar? What are the competitive, what are my competitors saying about those roles and the impact that you get to make? And how can I say something different and stick out, right? And it be very true, right? Then you have to craft that compelling creative, right? That helps others envision working for you, not that describe the job only, right? But that actually helps when somebody reads that job description or they read your recruiter email that you're sending out, it actually visualizes for them why it would be a good fit for them and what it would truly be like. It's got to be more of a job description and not a person description. What I see in most job descriptions and most recruiter outreach messages is that you miss the what's in it for them. You're coming at them saying, we're looking for somebody with your experience. I want you to get on this call, join this talent community, apply for this job. You're immediately coming to them and going like this with your hand out and saying, I need something from you. When instead, maybe you should paint them a beautiful picture of this, personalize your messaging as to that's guided towards their motives or the typical motives for this persona, the person that would be good in this job, and see if the fish bite, right? That works a lot better. And then once you got that compelling messaging out there, and then you distribute it, right? So put that message in the right places, not in all of the places, but the right places to reach and impact the exact candidates that you want, right? And then you activate this, right? You convert awareness into interest, driving more applications from higher quality content, right? When you have that position-driven messaging, right? And you put it in the right places, you're gonna see better conversion of the talent that you're looking for, and you're gonna see the talent that you don't want not come around because one, you're not putting your message in front of them for the most part if your targeting is good, or two, you're putting your position so widely and authentically out there that they're gonna know and they're gonna have the information they need to not apply or not respond to your email or respond to your sourcing outreach email with a thanks, but this doesn't feel like the right fit for me, right? And then measure it, measure it, right? Beamer is one of our sponsors, like a platform like that. But even just Google Analytics, just find ways to measure how effective your message is. Maybe it's your open rates. Maybe it's did they read my emails? Did they click on the link that I put in it? Things like that. Creating landing pages for them to go to that highlights your job, so you can see like how long they're actually reading the content and things like that, right? So with that, I wanna do just a quick little test. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You have a question. From a sourcing standpoint, how do you figure out someone's motives?
Oh, that's a great one. I recently did a project where I was trying to find the motives and build a persona for uh, car mechanics for a large uh, used car franchise, right? And what I did is I crowdsourced on my Facebook, said, hey, who knows some mechanics in the greater Boston area? And I got introduced to 6 mechanics, and I set up 20-minute calls with all of them. And I asked them things like, why did you become a mechanic? What do you like about it? What does it look like when you feel well resourced? I learned that the biggest thing about attracting candidates is like providing them with great tools and safety. Because when you do your job well and you have the right tools, you have better you have better security and safety in the job, and you start to find what are these intrinsic motivations of these people, and I use that in my outreach messaging to source those candidates because I knew their motivation. I said, hey, I've got an employer that provides you the best in class tools. You get constant training across multiple brands of cars. And that immediately spoke to their motivator because they may be working at a mom and pop shop where they got to buy their own tools and bring their own tools. And if they want training, they have to go out and pay for that themselves, right? And so it's by just talking to these people and asking the right questions and finding their motivations, you can attract more of them, right? Let the talent help you find them themselves, right? Um, but does that answer your question? Good.
I think we're good. We do have
Awesome.
another one.
Sure.
When doing a phone screen, is it in bad taste to ask what motivates them?
Absolutely not. Man, it actually sounds like you give a crap. You're calling them and you're asking like, hey, I'm calling you because I think you might be a good fit for this role. But before you even get into the role, I just want to know a little bit more about you. Because even if this is the right role, maybe there's one down the line, or I love networking with folks in this industry. I live and breathe this industry. I work for many years. I just want to know what makes you tick and how I may be able to help you in your career. And then it takes them it gets out of the having your hand out and saying I want something from you, and it goes more into how can I help you human to human. And this is the thing that AI won't automate, you guys, ever, right? Is that there's a human on that phone. There's a human behind that email, and your messaging shows your humanity. It's not a robot script of template crap. um, you know, um, and I talk about this in a little bit too, so I'll go into that a little bit later. But what I wanted to quickly ask you guys is which of these jobs, this is a TA leader role, right? Which of these jobs would you apply to, left or right? Just want to get an idea. This is the difference in messaging here, and I just want to test this with you guys.
Okay, we've got a left.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. If you guys want to answer, I will pass along.
Awesome.
Right?
Oh, we got a right. Okay.
Yes. Ooh, they're coming in like crazy. Okay, so we have a left. We have a right.
Okay.
So are we
About
coming in even
About
here?
50-50, right? About even. Well, that's good. You've already made my point. It really depends on what you're motivated by, right? Look on the left. Wanted TA leader who lives to nurture relationships across teams to support a growing recruiting team and make our company a desirable place to work. Experience negotiating with big egos to find new opportunities for success, a must, right? So if I read this, here's kind of what I'm reading between the lines. We've got a young recruiting team. You as a TA leader are going to have to go in there and really coach and upskill and train this team, right? Like there's going to be some real manager work you got to do to upscale this team. Also, we've got a CMO maybe who is got a big ego and they're hard to work with. So you got to be able to have that executive presence and deal with some pretty tough personalities. Right away, someone who's not up for that game, going to opt out of that, not going to apply to that crap, right? I personally would be really motivated by this one because I like building, building broken machine. This other one though, look on the right says wanted TA leader ready to take on the challenge of growing our successful recruiting team. Meaning this team's already established. They're probably rocking real good. They're just missing a strategic piece, a leader, right? And then in order to meet some aggressive business goals, we need your help to attract and hire the next generation of people who will continue our growth. Meaning, like, everybody's on board. Like, we've got some aggressive goals this year, so you're gonna be hitting the pavement, you're gonna be focused on data, and you're gonna be pushing your initiatives. But you know, the basic machine is already there. One is a builder, the other is a maintainer, right? Type of motivator and personality for a TA leader. And I would tell you, this is a real thing. There are companies that need the left type of TA leader, and there are companies that need the right type of TA leader. Who you are, which one of these you choose, says a little bit about you, right? Because they're crafted in that way to highlight those distinctions without calling it right out, means they're very effective. Because I'm willing to bet if I really talk to some of you people that said left, you like to build. If I talk to some of you on the right, you probably like to go in and take it to the next level, right? It's building, but like, you're not going into a place with absolutely no process and no ATS, right? Like I do all the time. Defining motivation, right? The motivation that is core and intrinsic to your company is likely true across your entire company. I love this part of consulting. I love the audit phase, like that first phase when we go in and I'm talking to employees, and what starts to happen, especially doing like employer brand videos and a recruiting audit of a company's recruiting org, and I start talking to some of these hiring managers, talk to some of their key employees, I start to see themes that none of them know I'm talking to the other, but they all say some very similar things. You find this language, this vocabulary that everyone in the company uses. That is the intrinsic motivations of your people. That is what becomes, right? We also go and we survey large swaths of people, as well as talk to individuals one-on-one to confirm those motivations, as well as uncover the employee stories that actually make that brand position and brand promise very clear and make sure that it's true, right? We don't put lipstick on pigs, right? We find out what is truly unique, right? And the question is, like, how do you communicate that brand once you have it to audiences in different regions without becoming a YARP? I like saying it that way because it just really highlights what YARP is. And for those that don't know, yet another recruiting post. Join me. I have an opening. Great opportunity. Wanted. Dead or alive. Join us. We're hiring, right? The channel and the tactic doesn't matter, right? If you don't have something interesting and compelling to say, and that comes from a strong brand position and promise. If you don't know who you are, how do you attract the people that want to be that with you, right? How are you going to get people to find purpose in joining your organization if you don't even know what your purpose is? And I can tell you right now, most companies don't. They know that they need to grow their company, sell this product, but they don't know what they believe in, what are their values as an organization, right? A lot of times. Or the values are words on a wall, but when it comes to actually actioning it, rewarding it, they fall short, most of them. Because we're still, you guys, we're still in this age of the 90s and early 2000s of you should be happy to be employed. And those days are over. They're over. They're likely over forever, right? Even if we suffer a downturn in the economy, people now, through internet, through technology, they have too much information, too much to just be happy to have a job, right? They care too much about their work-life balance, about their having a greater purpose. So let's go back to some of those problems we talked at the beginning, right? Big cities, small towns, right? Like when you have position-driven messaging, right? And by the way, this applies to sourcing as well. You have that position-driven messaging. You can format coverage, but maybe in small towns, you're focusing on newspapers, right? That same position-driven messaging is going to be effective no matter where you put it. Just put it in the places that work for the geos and the areas and the situations that you are recruiting in, right? So small towns, maybe it's newspapers, maybe it's geolocated ads, social media, local colleges in the smaller towns. Maybe it's retargeting. So maybe people that were on your career site 6 months, a year ago, maybe you're serving some ads to them somewhere else to bring them back in and, hey, take a look again, right? In the larger cities, maybe it's more major market content sites like Built in Austin, Built in Chicago. Maybe it's associations, event education conferences. Again, retargeting on the larger scale, right? You can solve these problems by looking at your position messaging, understanding who you're going after and their market and your competitors, and building your strategy, building your go-to-market strategy or sourcing strategy or recruitment marketing strategy around that, right? Let's say entry level versus senior level, right? Well, if you've got good position-driven messaging to both of these two sectors, maybe more entry level, you're doing more of an active, right? You're doing more of an active strategy. So you're using some of those job boards, but you're using position-driven messaging, not just a bullet list of things that you are looking for in an individual. Maybe you're using some LinkedIn, social. Glassdoor is a great channel for younger generation, especially engineers and others. They do their research before applying. Maybe you're doing some programmatic for those active jobs. What's great about programmatic and putting some stop ads rules and through the algorithm there, where especially with these high volume roles, so you stop spending on roles once they hit a certain amount of applications and divert those funds into roles that aren't getting a lot of love, right? Automatic getting best bang for your buck. Programmatic is great at automating once you get it. And if you don't do it right, programmatic can again just be post and pray 2.0. But if you have the right position-driven messaging and then you activate automation of job distribution and advertising, it can work phenomenally well. I'm going to give you a case study here at the end that shows the power of that. Let's say you're going after more senior passive candidates. Maybe you're advertising on content sites like Forbes, CNN, news publications. Maybe you're doing more educational video content that highlights opportunities at your company. Maybe you do more of a focus on events and networking at conferences. Again, programmatic can work really, really good here too if your positioning and your channel strategy and the strategy behind it is done very, very well. Obviously, geolocated and poaching ads can also be really effective here. So imagine there's a competitor you're going after, you can actually geolocate and just deliver ads to people at that geolocation. Pretty cool technology nowadays. But again, it's all for naught if you don't have a good position-driven messaging and promise that is compelling to the exact people and the places in which you're going to look for them. Right? Earned, you also have earned versus owned. And before I go into this, are there any other questions?
Yes. Do you mind elaborating some on retargeting?
Yes.
Speak a little bit more about what you mean. Yes, thank you so much.
You ever been on Amazon or Wayfair and then you go to Facebook and that dang toaster you were just looking at on Amazon is right in your face? That is retargeting. So somebody goes in your, like maybe they found your job on Indeed, and they looked at it and oh man, kids start screaming they got to go change a diaper, and then guess what? They completely forgot about you and that job they were applying to, and they never go back. Well, you lost them. You had a moment, life got in the way, and now that perfect candidate is now gone. Well, retargeting goes, not so fast. I knew you came and looked at that job. And indeed, it dropped you on our career site, but we put a little snippet of code, and we have some Google ad network ads going. And since we got that cookie when you're on our site, now when you go later on to shop for your outfit or that cool craft supplies on Etsy, I'm going to drop an ad and say, hey, remember this job you were applying to a second ago, a couple days ago? Why don't you come on back and finish? That is retargeting. Any other questions?
I think we're good for now. We actually have a few, but we'll hold till the end. So
wonderful. Cool. So
awesome.
You got earned.
Thanks, Will.
You got it. You got earned and owned types of promotion, right? You have earned, which is you've earned that bad reputation on Glassdoor, or maybe you haven't, or you've earned a good reputation on Glassdoor. You own that, right? You have review sites. Advocacy, you have to earn the loyalty and the trust of your employees to advocate and to give referrals, right? Recruiter outreach, you are going to earn whether they respond to that outreach email or not by the messaging you choose to use when you outreach. I can't tell you anything that ruins our industry more from a reputation standpoint than the kind of disgustingly awful mass email templated recruiting outreach messages that I see on an almost daily basis. And it's really doubly embarrassing when I get emails from recruiters just because I worked at a tech company as if I was an engineer they were trying to hire. It's not good. It's not good. It's got to stop the spam, right? So you're going to earn a reputation by these things. And then you have your owned, right? Your job posting, your conference display ads, your videos, your career site events, your career site. You own that. You have that position-driven messaging, that core, that EVP, that value statement, your mission. These things have to be consistent across all these places. How you talk to employees about referrals and advocacy and why that's important and to the growth of the company, your content on your Glassdoor, on your review sites, your Fairy God Boss, whatever, that has to be consistent even with your job descriptions and what you say at conferences and what's the narrative that's being told in the videos. Like, find that thing that you're uniquely great at and then hammer it so hard that people just start associating X company is this kind of employer, right? Put a stake in the ground. Any other question before we dive into some quick case studies that kind of highlight a lot of what I'm showing and how we actually did this for real employers?
We do have a few. Let's see.
And how much time are we? How are we doing? We have 15 minutes.
We're actually at 12:47, and we have we actually have about 13 minutes, and we have a lineup of questions, most of which are probably better to hold until the end.
Okay.
But would you like to wait till the end?
Yeah, let's do one, and then I will zoom through the case studies. Obviously, I'm sure you're going to make these available to folks. The recording will be available as well.
Yes.
And that way we save a little more time for questions at the end.
Okay, so do you think that it's beneficial for a recruiter that hires out of state to visit some of these areas and figure out how to advertise?
No, I think you can do enough research on those areas. I mean, to really understand that. I think you can also talk to people that live in those areas. You have the power of social media, 4 degrees of separation and whatnot, right? You know somebody that lives in those areas, and talk to them about it. Just at a surface level, really understand why someone would want to move that area. And I talk a little bit about that in one of these case studies. Hiring nurses for a company in East Texas. Now, I've never lived in a small town in East Texas. I grew up in Texas, but I was able to go there and really understand it. But mostly, we reached out to the local chamber of commerce, the city itself, and got a lot of collateral and even videos that the city had done to attract people to that city and why they'd want to work there. And you can use that messaging. Like, boom, like that was content we didn't have to create. Like, the city itself gave us that content to help us recruit and attract people into their city because they also benefit from that through tax and other things like that, right? So no, I don't think you have to go there unless you're recruiting somebody to move to Hawaii. Then yes, you should totally go there, get some raise, enjoy learning about that beautiful place. Cool. Any other?
I think we're good right now. Thanks.
You got it. Cool. Let's move to some case studies. So we were working with a company called Save a Tree. The problem, right? This was just in this past year. We're only a few months off of this one, right? They are a regional arboricultural and plant service company, and they've been going national via acquisitions, right? So they are one of the nation's largest tree, shrub, and lawn care companies, right? They're having problems hiring the right requisite technical staff, arborists, tree climbers. Some of these are dangerous jobs, you guys, right? And there's a lot of brand issues, right? Because it's through a lot of different acquisitions. So local brands keep changing. They needed a real strategy and a comprehensive plan that executed that strategy, right? But they didn't have much of a budget, right? Private equity based, right? They were also, we calculated, know this. We were like, wow, you're having a hard time hiring people. have you yet calculated how many jobs you're not getting because you don't have the people to do them? And they did it. We actually worked with their chief people officer and their CEO, and we calculated they were losing like millions a quarter due to just not hiring people fast enough. So that was an awesome way to show that ROI of what we did. But this was a real problem for this company, right? So what we did is we took a deep dive research. We did surveys and one-on-one interviews to determine their intrinsic brand position, right? Like why were employees staying here is because for most people in that industry, they're working for a small mom and pop shop that doesn't offer benefits, that's 1099. There wasn't much of a career path. I mean, if you were a landscaper, you stayed a landscaper. But at Save a Tree, because it's actually hire people full time, they give benefits, bonuses. They have career pathing, whether you are cutting grass or you want to become a tree climber or arborist. They gave a path to that. And that's a huge differentiator in this market, but they weren't talking about that at all. And that's what we changed, right? Because we found that having ownership in their work, having a clear career path, and then being part of the growth that this company was going through were really big motivations for their employees. And so we built messaging around that, right? So based on the position research, we were actually able to deliver a 22-page roadmap and playbook that they shared with leadership, marketing, hiring managers, and it leveraged all aspects of the company to support the common goal of establishing and supporting a strong employer brand. Without much of a massive change in budget, we were able to train their internal teams on, once we built that employer brand machine, how to then maintain it. And then we phased out, right? We're not like a brand agency that wants you to continually be dependent on them so we can suck revenue for you over time. We taught them how to fish, right? We came in, we built found their positioning, showed them how to market it, gave them a playbook, right? And so we gave them detailed instruction on how all their recruiters to write more compelling job postings and recruiter outreach messaging. We gave detailed instruction on how to ethically encourage more reviews on Glassdoor. We give them language to increase referrals and social sharing, content and social media strategies, strategies for implementing CRM like a Beamery and event marketing plans, all that stuff, right? Outcomes already, and it's only been a few months, you guys. Their Glassdoor has moved from a 2.8 to a 3.4 in 2 months. This is the difference between position-driven messaging and just YARP, right? YARP, right? So with a 3 rating overall for current employees. Their job post rankings went higher on Google for Jobs already. Their employer brand videos that we did with them are being shared by employees and prospects alike. They love them. There's been a huge increase in referrals now that everybody has a song to sing and it's unified across the organization. Better aligned creative cross channels and new tagline. The CEO is super thrilled about all of this in 2 months since delivering the roadmap, right? That's how quickly in working, when you really take the time to think about who are you, what's this job, the why can do. Last case I'm gonna do with UT Health. This is an amazing monster of an account we took on. Their problem was they were regionally remote facilities in East Texas. They had higher paying competition in the area. They were an unknown brand because they just changed their brand, and unknown EVP. They were critical, hard to fill hires. You're talking about nurses, physical therapists, and they're a hop, skip, and a jump away from Dallas too, right? They're a challenger to Baylor Scott and White and Parkland, which are big, well-known hospital brands in the area, right? So what did we do? We deployed a team of 18 healthcare-specific recruiters. We built a multi-channel strategy from scratch with programmatic and analytics, utilizing one of our programmatic partners, Recruitix, right? So we measured everything from click, app, qualified, interview, offer, hire. We built out the recruiters' messaging. We did massive text campaigns. We did programmatic advertising around Facebook. We did career fairs and then marketed those career fairs to the people through geofence targeting into those things. And boom, what do? We increased their hires with that mix of programmatic and just great recruiters, 51% in month number 1, 126% increase by month 2. We filled 1,327 positions in 6 months, saving them over $2.6 million. Oh, by the way, we also decreased their average time to fill by 27 days. Again, good, right positioning, right? Use of efficiency and programmatic, and then good old fashioned giving them a recruiting team. Because they had 500 open recs and 1 recruiter when we started with them, right? And then we instantly gave them a recruiting team, helped them build their full-time recruiting team for the long term, and then got out of the way. So position-driven messaging, active and passive targeting, programmatic coverage, eliminated wasted spend, saving them a bunch of money, and then added extra fuel for those rural jobs, right? And then optimize their process. So with that, I'll leave you to change or fail. Keep doing the same thing. Keep just posting your jobs with your bullet points on Indeed, and you're gonna still have the same problems. Questions?
We have quite a few. Are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay, and we have about 4 minutes left. So if anybody wants to send their questions through, I can forward those on to Will, as long as that's okay with Will. If we have anything we don't get to. Awesome.
Yeah, and even if you want to stop recording and just stay on for a little bit after it, I can do that too.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. All righty. So how did Twilio, going back to Twilio, how did they get in front of the engineers?
Sourcing.
Sourcing.
Employer brand. They also, the great thing about Twilio is they became the API for hackathons, and they did it really well. They ran hackathons across the world, and these engineers would come and they'd use the technology, and they go, "Whoa, I want to build this." So that made it a little easier. But that was unique to them. Like, they built an API that was so sticky that all the world's applications, from Uber to Chase Bank application for two-center authentication, was using their APIs. And so that helped, but they still didn't really know the brand. They sort of knew the tool. They didn't know us as an employer, right? What we were like either. So it takes some work, and they're still doing that. They now have a head employer branding and team that's doing some really, really amazing stuff over there. It's a great company.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see here. Can you please explain earned versus owned branding again, and how you can improve that based on hiring for multiple entry?
Yeah, earned. Think of earned as it's it's something that it's going to be there whether you do something or not, which is your reputation, reviews. You don't have any control over earned content and media. You can't sit there with standing over the desk of one of your employees and be like, "All right, I want you to post something on LinkedIn about working here. Do it right now. You got 5 seconds." So you earn that content by being a great employer and compelling your employees to want to advocate and share about you, right? So think about earned in that way. You can't control it. You either earn a positive or negative sentiment from how you act as an organization. Owned is like, you control this content. It is your career site. It's your content. And if you write crap content, it's not going to work. If you write good content, it might work a little better. And I think with early talent, they have less trust in your own media, meaning early talent's probably not going to go to your career site and just like believe every word on it. They're also probably not going to believe every word a recruiter says either. They're going to be skeptical of you, but they trust crowdsourced information. They trust reviews because that's what they've grown up with. They don't even make a decision on what movie to watch or what Chinese food restaurant to order from unless there's review data that shows that several other people had a good experience. So when you think about the right mix of earned versus owned, think about your audience, right? Next question.
Yes. Okay, so if you had to list a 3-step prescription for a team to start the process on defining a message, what would it be?
Well, you're gonna have to pay me for that. No, I'm just kidding.
No secret sauce, right?
Give me all your no. If a 3-step prescription,
Yes.
step 1, talk to your people and ask them good questions like, what makes you stay here? What motivates you in your career? What do you do outside of work? Like what not just motivates you in the office, but what motivates you outside of it? Like know people, right? If if you have employees that are really motivated by work-life balance and doing meaningful work, but also having time to really spend those moments with their family, hopefully you don't work in Wall Street or the banking environment because, or early stage startup, because those people aren't going to be motivated by that. But if you do work in one of those early stage startup or a hedge fund company, right? You're going to find people who are motivated by maybe money, motivated by status, right? Those 8 motivators that I just showed you about, you need to be, 1, asking the questions that help you get to those motivators. 2, you need to be able to articulate those in a way that attracts other people like that, right? And then 3, you got to measure it. So I would say go back to earlier in the slide deck where I just talked about all that stuff.
Thank you, Will. So
Yep.
we have a really long list of questions here. Are you okay with one more question, and then perhaps I'll just send these to you and then get back to these to everyone?
Sure.
Okay, cool. What is your recommendation for an action plan to incorporate paid ads with messaging on the career site or via the recruiter?
I would have to have an audit discussion with you, understand what you're currently doing, your budget. I need to know about 1,000 things. And if you can talk to Tori sales, he'll let you know my pricing.
That sounds good. Well, I tell you what, we are at 2 minutes after, so we'll go ahead and end. If anyone has any additional questions, just send them our way and we'll have them answered. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
so much, Will.
Fun. Mm-hmm.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks. You guys have a wonderful day. Hey, Will.
Yeah.
If everyone is saying thank you, just so you know, and we're still recording, I'll have to get with you after we end, okay?
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.